There's those folks. Let's get our Facebook groups in here and we can start the show. We got the wheels spinning here. Maybe. There we go. 1 and 2. All right. Welcome in. It is the 20th of November, Wednesday morning. I survived the bomb cyclone of 2024 out here in the Pacific Northwest. It was a little touch and go last night there, Scott. Power flickering off last night at about midnight. We're back up and running, and for the first show, the internet held up. We'll see what happens going forward.
Just in time to get ready for Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear crying upstairs. I don't know. That's not my problem right now. So we're here, we're hanging out.
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know what's going on. But here we are. We're going on, and I guess I scheduled it weird. It's we got Warden coming in. I don't recognize the name Warden, but glad for the coming in and saying we're good. Appreciate the work you guys do. Thank you so much, Warden, coming in here. We got Mike Givens coming in as well with the the incredibly generous super chat here. Mike, if you got any comments for us, please let us know. But this keeps the lights on here, not just literally with the power coming back on for me here after that crazy storm yesterday. We got like 1 million people out here without power out here in Western Washington and Seattle, but we're doing well. And Mike, helping us so much. Thank you so much. $49.99. If you got anything for us, let us know.
Yeah, coming in hot pink. Appreciate you keeping the lights on, forehead nice and shiny, and all that kind of good stuff. And again, it's humbling before we even get started. Just when you're saying thank you and supporting the show like that, it means a lot. It truly does.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate you. We got Jeremy coming in. I'm sure he's happy as a clam. We might get back-to-back weeks of Bo Nix, the Diet Pepsi Zero Sugar or whatever it is, Rookie of the Week. Again, everything's got some stupid sponsor. Don't, unless you want to sponsor the show, Zero Sugar Pepsi, then you're not stupid. But the Morning Boys, time to do what's never been done. Beat the Raiders in Las Vegas. Stay focused. Yeah, the Broncos are 5.5-point favorites so far, and I think I was talking about it last night, Scott. Maybe it's just because, you and I are kind of cut from the same cloth of like, don't count your chickens before they hatch. It's the NFL, and I see people, look, the Broncos got the Raiders on the road. They're terrible. And Cleveland at home, they're terrible. We're going to obviously be, no doubt at all, 8-5 going into the bye week and have everything in front of us. I may be a little too guarded to get too excited about that because I've been let down too many times. But it's the NFL. Anything can happen any week. Taking care of business in these games is part of the step for the Broncos going from purgatory that they've been in of ineptitude to a good team. Good teams take care of business against bad teams. Denver didn't do that last year. They've done that so far this season since the quarterbacks become competent, I guess is what I'll say.
Well, and they haven't really, who'd they lose to that was not a quality team? Seattle, but Seattle's okay. They're an okay team. And that was week 1 on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
That one's flush that one away. I'm okay with that one. And again, I said it at the time, I've said it since then. The Baltimore game was an anomaly. Do you lose to them 7 out of 10 times? Probably. Do they beat you like that 7 out of 10 times? No. That it's a snowball effect where that just kind of happens on that. But and I said last week before the Falcons game, these next 4, it's a nice run. The probability says, even if you have a 75% probability of win, if you do the multiplication on that, it means you've only got like a 20% chance of winning all 4. But 3-1, we like to break things down in tiers. 3-1 feels realistic from this group. 4-0 is certainly possible, but 3-1 feels realistic. And what he's sitting at, we said 8-6 going into the last few. And obviously not worst case. But that doesn't feel overly optimistic to me, Nick.
No, it feels probable. But again,
in fact, you'd be a little disappointed if you drop one of these games.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, this is a Raiders team that is very much struggling. It feels like it's Antonio Pierce as a dead man walking. The quarterback play is not very good. They do have some guys on defense. Obviously, I really like their linebacker, Spillman, I think is his name. He's a pretty good player, underrated. And of course, they got Max Crosby as well. Brock Bowers is the only non-quarterback in the Rookie of the Year discussion. I think maybe Brian Thomas should at least have a name tossed out too if we're throwing in the non-quarterbacks. But
it doesn't get a whole lot easier for them either, Nick. It goes Broncos at Chiefs, at Buccaneers, Falcons at home, Jaguars, that's a relegation bowl, or top, who's going to have the number 1 pick type of game.
Mm-hmm.
At Saints and then Chargers at home. I mean,
one more win.
I mean, it's more realistic for me to think that the Raiders go winless the rest of the way than the Broncos go 4-0 in this stretch of games.
Yeah. Yep. So they're in trouble, no doubt. They're on the quarterback hunt, right? They were the musical chairs last year in the first round. Raiders were one of the teams very aggressively looking at. They would have killed to have Jaden Daniels, and after that, I guess Penix was their guy, and nobody really expected the Falcons to go Penix at 8, and that kind of changed everything. So the Raiders on the outside looking in there, and now they're in Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders hunt, and a lot of people in the league are saying that this is not a exciting quarterback draft at the top. I know that I don't want to ruffle any feathers of any Colorado fans in here, but the league, from what I've heard, is not really overwhelmed with Sanders as a quarterback.
Does Sanders in with the Las Vegas Raiders sound like a good idea?
With Deion Sanders coming along with as well. I mean,
just not even that. I'm just talking about the Raiders aren't exactly known for problem children, and I'm not saying he's a big problem, but he's got a bit of an attitude.
Personality.
He's had some he's had some controversy surrounding him. The last place in the world you want someone with those, Jalen Carter going to the Raiders is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter going to the Eagles. Okay. There's some stability there. Anybody going to the Raiders, but I need somebody who is crystal clean when it comes to the off the field stuff and the drama. I don't want any drama if I'm the Raiders.
One thing I will say for the Raiders perspective here is that there is going to be very few hardball media perspective on them. It's not like going to New York, where the Giants are also on the quarterback hunt, or a team with like massive tradition like Chicago. There's not. I respect Hondo Carpenter and the guys out there that are covering the Raiders and everything, but like Vegas isn't going to have an.
No. There's a big difference, and trust me, I'm with it. It's one of the reasons I got so irritated with Arthur Smith in Atlanta. I'm like, brother, you're not going to find a more team-friendly media environment than right here. Be nice to these people when the microphone's on, for God's sakes. I know you're okay off camera with these guys, but no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be – but the Raiders, and I know we're talking too much Raiders here, but they're coming up next, and it says beat Raiders in Vegas. The Raiders are not Raiders fans, I'm not saying anything you don't know. They're not a well-run organization.
No.
They need Peyton Manning. They need the general to come in, not the drama.
Yeah, we'll see. Shadur has been very good, and he's improved a lot this season. I think he's comparison that I've heard that I like a lot for him is Teddy Bridgewater, where he's not really the athlete that he thinks he is as a player, and doesn't have the overwhelming arm, but he's tough as freaking hell in the pocket, and the players really do like him and respect him as well. So I think he can be successful. It's not my typical quarterback where I like the overwhelming, arm talent and trick shots display, zipping the football around, but he can be successful. But that's probably enough Raiders hypothetical draft talk for them. They're not
one that I never got, and the long enough timeline is playing out on that. Is Carson Beck.
Oh yeah, he's
I just don't. I was like, I don't see a single plus trait in this kid. Not a one as far as physical ability. And then when he starts making bad decisions,
yeah. Quoting me there, that's my uh-oh. We want to say hello to some more people coming in here. Again, shout out to Mike Gibbons with the super chat. Thank you so much. Desert Creature in here morning and night with the burrow owl here. I love that. He says, good morning, all. Great to see you. We got our guy Dave Glassman coming in here. Thank you so much. We got Kenneth Booker. Kenneth, I meant to say this last night, but Carl cut me off. No, he just wanted to wish you, I believe it was your birthday last week. So happy belated birthday, Kenneth. Says, what's up, fellas? Now that I saw why Forsyth got run over on the field goal, how do more people not get run over in the situation? You literally have to block 3 people. It's because how quick the snap and kick happen that you have to hold up long enough, right? And you have to be strong enough that you're not getting absolutely blown back and run through. So the Chiefs obviously identified he was losing pretty fast out there, a little bit weaker in his stance. And they schemed to target him, and it worked in that situation. So yeah, you're going to see guys get beat. It's just how quickly he was getting destroyed was the issue.
Honestly, I think it's almost as easy as where are you leaning? I mean, because you look at them and their legs are crisscross, and I'm like, how are you supposed to get knocked backwards when they're set up there? It's like a chain link fence, and Forsyth, I don't know who was next to him. Let's just say McGlinchey on his left side. His left foot's in front of McGlinchey's right foot. You can't step backwards without falling down. But the whole point is you're not supposed to step backwards at all.
Mm-hmm.
And as quick as it happens, it should be just a lean forward on that. So it almost comes down to awareness. What do you know when the snap is going off so I can start my lean, or am I just reacting to the guy in front of me? But it's fixable. Obviously we don't see guys getting knocked on their butts all the, every single time, or there'd be a hell of a lot more blocked field goals on that. But it costs you a game to get it fixed, but better now than later. I know that one hurt though.
Yeah, and one thing I will say out of that too, Scott, is it stinks. Denver could be 7-4, which I mean, you're talking shoo-in there for the playoffs. I mean, at that point, you're probably sitting there 80% playoff probability. At this point, you'd have a huge lead on everybody else in the AFC, where right now you have a two-thirds chance of making the playoffs still based on most models. But you also came out of that game that we saw last week against the Falcons. We'll see if they keep it up. But that was a motivated, angry football team, and it might have rallied them.
That was our theme on Monday. I'm like, how do you react? Is it depressed or defiant? And that was the word I kept using, was defiant. And now going against, coming out of this game and then seeing your next three opponents, it's just hard to picture the Denver Broncos as being an underdog in any one of those three, which brings us to Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is a place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and 2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on players' stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 220.5 passing yards this week? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
Download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Woo, man, I love it. Thank you to Underdog for there. That's M Huddle again. We got Jason Boney coming in and saying Underdog is the only betting site that's legal in South Carolina. So I don't know if there's some collusion there, but shout out to them. They're helping us, and make sure you use that code M Huddle. Randy coming in here saying the Broncos are favored. That historically hasn't been a good sign. Usually do better as underdogs. Speaking of, that's there we go. A lot of theme there. Played down to the competition. This is a different team this year with a different culture. Yeah, I think that's the big thing is that, I mean, how much does the Broncos team from 2018 really relate to this team in 2024? You've had so many cycles, guys coming in and out. You have a few players. I mean, gosh, maybe it's just Garrett Bowles. I'm not sure who on that 2018 team is still here. Maybe that was Sutton's first year too. I don't recall. But yeah, very different team. Guys have cycled in and out. I don't think there's very much predictive power on what that team was or has been. If you talk like a team like the Steelers, where they've had 3 coaches in 1,000 years, maybe that's one thing. But not for this Broncos team. This is a new team, new day, new quarterback, new infrastructure.
Remember that time we stopped Derrick Henry? So we're good. We shut out Derrick Henry that time. So we're good against Derrick Henry. We own that guy. Yeah. No, we're talking, and it's Jason Bonnie. Yep, thank you. Nick's terrible with names. As smart as he is, we all get little gifts. That was not one of his. Mm-mm. So you'll have to forgive him on that. He's got lots of other to make up for it. How much has this team changed since we've been covering it? This is our fourth season. Our first season together was Vic Fangio's last year. That team was soft in the trenches on both sides, and they hated their coach. Both things I picked up. I was like, I haven't been watching this team long, but I picked up on this within 6 weeks of games, that they're soft in the trenches and they don't want to play for this guy. They've already quit on him. He's done. Dead man walking. I think we said that like week 6 after a 3-0 or a 3-1 start or whatever it was. I was like, these guys have already quit on this guy. Mm-hmm. And you don't see that at all. And you didn't see it last year either. As far as you're coming off 1-5 and you come back and fight against the Bears, that was a huge one. You go toe to toe with the Chiefs. I'm like, these guys are still fighting. And then this year, they were still undermanned. I'm not going to say soft because they were going hard in the defensive line. They were just undermanned, personnel wise on the defensive line. That's changed. You are going against very few teams where you don't have an advantage in the trenches, and that's just a monster difference in this team.
I mean, honestly, Scott, with how the Broncos defensive line is playing and how the offensive line is playing in pass protection specifically, I don't know if there is a team that is definitively better as a collective whole trench team than the Denver Broncos right now. I mean, when you look at the teams and run and pass block, I mean, you could say the Eagles are up there, of course. The Ravens are still up there too, even though
their defense isn't playing nearly as well. They're one of the anomalies this year where you look at their it's like, okay, here are the 5 worst statistical defensive teams, and I just went through all of it for the Atlanta Falcons this morning, and the Ravens were in there. It'd be like Panthers, Buccaneers are, there's 4 teams losing records, and then Ravens. You're like, huh.
I think that's more of a back 7 issue than a defensive line issue, which is why I would still include them. I also think that the offensive line is, while it's good, part of the reason they're good is because the combination of Jackson and Henry causes a crazy schematic advantage. So, I mean, just tossing them out there. The Chiefs are up there as well. They have the best interior offensive line trio, and Chris Jones is probably the best interior player in football right now, which makes a big difference. And also what was the other team I want to toss out? The Lions, of course, as well. I mean, they would definitely be number 1 if they had Aiden Hutchinson still. But as far as trenches go, Scott, I don't know if there's a singular matchup out there. Other than the Eagles probably have more star talent, a team out there that is better on both sides of the line of scrimmage than the Broncos. And what a turnaround that is, Scott, compared to 2 years ago. Shout out to Sean Payton. I just wrote an article for Chad. He asked for a 500-word article. It turned out to be 950. So shout out to you, Chad. Thank you. About the Broncos offensive line and how this team obviously has had to be frugal in some areas in team building. And the Broncos have been frugal. I mean, you talk about where they're putting their money in the back 7. They're still signing frugal contracts on the defensive front. The wide receiver and running back and tight end position, there's almost no money spent there. They did not go cheap on the offensive line. And that is paying huge dividends. We got Spider Pig coming in saying the Steelers are up there as well. I just don't think their offensive line qualifies. Yeah, their offensive
line is at best average and probably a little subpar. So their offensive line would drag down the collective of offense and defensive lines. If I'm averaging those together and say, okay, where do I rank? Their offensive line would drag the team down a little bit.
And it's not totally their fault. They've had a lot of injuries on the offensive line this season. I don't know if Troy Fontenot's played, but like 1 week he got injured, their first round pick. Frazier was looking like, I mean, he could have been a Pro Bowl center as a rookie, which is pretty unheard of. And he's had injuries and been a little bit slow coming back.
Yeah, they've cycled through a bunch of offensive tackles too.
And Broderick Jones, their first round pick last season, 2 seasons ago, has not really lived up to it.
Yeah, he's struggled a bit.
Without a period. Yep, without a doubt. We got did want to say hello again to Jason Bonnie. Got it. Hugh Jelly fan. Always good to see you. We got my friend Charlie coming in saying Riggs. That's his cat's name. So he just likes to toss in some friends there. So that's my good friend Charlie out here. Hope you kept the power on. He lives next to a big, huge wooded area, so obviously must have some power. Neil coming in saying feeling so good about this team's future. It's been so long since I've been excited for Sunday. Go Bo Broncos and thank you MHH team. Yeah, it does. This does feel like the most excited I've been for a Broncos team since 2015. And even that 2015 team, it felt like there was more dread covering that 2015 team, Scott, or like watching that 2015 team for me, because it felt like the Broncos defensive run, while it was unbelievable, was highly improbable. It felt like one of those, like, did you ever watch Breaking Bad? It's like, we can't keep getting away. He can't keep getting away with that. That's how it felt with the Broncos defense, with the improbable turnovers. It also felt like, man, did we really blow the chance to win a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, because how bad Peyton Manning was that 2015 season. Luckily, they went on a rather improbable run and won it all and rectified that. But there was much more feeling of like blown opportunity, I felt, watching that 2015 team than where this one. Not huge expectations coming into the year. Mostly everybody's outperforming expectation. A lot of excitement and optimism now. I mean, the arrow is pointing so up, and it's not just this team, but we're riding that wave of optimism into the offseason and into next season as well. So obviously it's a week-to-week league. Denver, knock on wood, loses to the Raiders this week. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of angry feelings in the chat, because that's just fandom in the NFL. But yeah, it feels very good.
There will be, but overall, you still feel like, okay, the anomaly, they happen. You lose games you're not supposed to. That it happens. Mm-hmm. But again, where does the trend line go? And the trend line is still pointing up. And I said that after the Ravens game, that was an anomaly. Yes, the Ravens are a better team. No, they're not that much better. It was just one of those days. Jason, thanks for coming back in. He says, what's the strategy for Bowers? Can't be Barton. The strategy for me with Bowers is don't let anybody else beat you. You can. He was pretty quiet after his initial mossing on the first catch, and then the strategy, honestly, for me, is just play your game. I'm not overly worried about losing a game to Bowers. What you worry about is Minshew getting on a heater, like it started to last time y'all played. But this team is so fragile mentally that any sign of adversity, they'll fold up. It was the difference between the Broncos and the Raiders and the Broncos and the Chargers. You saw two totally different teams mentally. The Raiders started fast against the Broncos. I mean, this has a chance. Oh God, this thing's about to be 17-0. I mean, it's about to get ugly. Pick six, game over. The Chargers start fast and then just keep the pedal down, and they're just so much better. And again, they're a much better overall team. The strategy for Bowers is don't let anybody else beat you. If he gets his 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown or two, so be it. 14 points ain't going to beat you.
And honestly, I think there's kind of a misconception here. This isn't just you, Jason, but the league at whole. You're not really seeing too often linebacker, tight end, man coverage going on there. I mean, teams aren't really playing man that high anyway. It's mostly zone. And when you do have somebody like Bowers, it's going to be as much on Barton as it is Brandon Jones. I know he's a game time decision. I would expect him back in this game. PJ Locke and Jaquan McMillan. So I know it's Barton. You saw some penny front in this game.
You know who else it's on?
The pass rush.
Yep. Pressure Minshew. You don't worry about Bowers.
Yep. So for me, I mean, what's the strategy for Bowers? Just don't let him hit the home run. Bracket him, get them in 3rd and long, and he's going to get his targets. Not only because he's there, obviously the straw that stirs the drink for their offense, but also teams just aren't throwing at Patrick Surtain. So expect a peppering towards McMillan and Moss. So that's just, duh. But he's going to get his still. It's just you can't let him break the big one or other guys get it done. Like the Raiders have been absolutely horrific this season, Scott. And I mean, overall EPA per play, they are one of the worst offenses in football. But it's not just that here. Let me pull this up, Scott. And we talked about it when Denver played them last time, but it's got the sample size is more robust and it's gotten even more egregious. But the run game, my God, Scott, let me pull it up right here. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. You hopefully can see that Raiders logo on there. The y-axis there, that's on the left, up and down, is the rush EPA per play. Raiders are playing a different football game with how horrible they are against the run. The difference between the Raiders and the Dolphins' second worst EPA per rush team in the NFL is almost it's almost negative 0.35 all the way to negative 0.2. That's almost the difference between the worst team in the NFL and the 5th best rushing offense EPA. So they are an absolutely dog bleep rush offense as well. And that plays pretty well for the Broncos because they've been really getting a lot better against the run. First part of the season, they were just okay. That Seattle game and the Steelers game, they didn't do the best at stopping the run, especially the success rate, but they've gotten a lot better there. I'm expecting a lot of 3rd and longs, Scott, and then you talk about it, the pass rush, getting after it. A little harder for those down the field plays to happen, and with how good Denver's been tackling as well from the back 7, as long as he doesn't get behind you, somebody slip in the backfield, that one blown play, I just don't think Bowers can do enough on his own to get it done.
Yeah, and then you look at some of the trends as far as it looks like a team that's giving up. They went 4 games, including getting blown out by the Broncos, where they didn't give up 300 yards of total offense. Starting with the Browns prior to the Broncos week, they gave up 241, and they won that game. They only gave up 289 against the Broncos, 293 against the Steelers, 259 against the Rams. And then the last 3, the offenses have gotten a little better, but the Kansas City Chiefs don't really scare anybody on offense as far as putting up huge numbers. Last 3 games, 334, 373 against the Bengals. Bye week, 353 with Tua coming back against the Dolphins. This team is trending in the wrong direction. They're looking towards January.
And they also set up very nicely for how the Broncos want to play. So the Raiders are 32nd in the NFL in EPA per play. They're actually okay, Scott, in their success rate against the pass. So when you are that bad against the pass, but 28th against dropback EPA, but 16th in success rate against the pass, what does that mean? You're giving up freaking explosives out there. It's not play to play, but you are giving up a monster one there and then. But they are 32nd in the NFL in EPA per rush, 32nd in the NFL in rush success rate. So they're giving up explosives and your efficient runs as well. So I expect this game to be Broncos. I don't think they're going to try to do too much offensively. I think this is one that you should be able to control the lines of scrimmage, rush the ball pretty effectively. And then Sean Payton with Bo Nix, they don't have to be totally one dialed up big shot a game, but you want to make sure that you're calculated with it, because I think you can scheme up some play action monster shots on this with there's going to be like a 2nd and 2, Scott, right? Where you get a good run on 1st down. That's your kill play. You're going to run a deep play action there. Knicks don't take a sack. We're going to dial it up. You're going to have maybe this is the game where finally Troy Franklin gets that down the field catch versus a totally inept Raiders team. But you're going to have some opportunities because the Raiders defense is that bad.
Cameron Wadman coming in. He says, so glad to catch y'all live. I'd be loving to catch that dirt bike is what I want to catch. I watched Penix and Knicks in Washington last year and have been wanting him since. I think this team's the funnest team I've watched since 2015, which is kind of what Nick was saying too. He follows back up. He says, do we start Josh Reynolds when he gets back or let the young guys play? Yeah. The young guys that you think aren't necessarily that young.
Yeah. Devon Bailey, what is he, 27, 26?
He's if he hasn't turned 27, he's close. So Josh Reynolds is about to turn 30. So he is, I feel like he is a younger guy, but he's not. But Vele's older than little Jordan Humphrey, believe it or not. I think the young guys end up being Troy Franklin and
Mims
and Marvin Mims still. But you try and let them play. But I think Reynolds healthy becomes now your wide receiver 3, where it's Sutton and then Vele. And then Reynolds offers you a little bit something different as Mims and then Franklin kind of sprinkle in as they continue to mature and improve. And I think a lot of people would hope what you see less of then is little Jordan Humphrey.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Scott. I mean, I don't know if you heard the news yesterday that came out from the Athletic piece with the dysfunction in the Jets organization. But this offseason, there was a trade that was agreed to and shot down by ownership.
You did send me that. Yep.
Where Alan Lazard was offered with a 2nd round or a day 2 pick for Jerry Jeudy. That would have been nice, but Woody Johnson shot it down. So a lot of dysfunction out there. Maybe Woody Johnson's going to be the ambassador to Ireland or whatever the hell
Jerry
it is.
Jeudy's is a good build-up kind of guy that really helps uplift everybody around him. That'd be a good pick for the Jets.
Yeah. It's I don't know. But
Calvin Ridley wasn't available. You missed out on him.
So the point I was making was the body type that and the role. There's obviously a role that Peyton likes for that little Jordan Humphrey type, which is essentially your hybrid wide receiver tight end, your big slot out there.
Which so for me is also Vele.
Vele is skinnier though. He's 6'4", 215, which I don't think he has as much like that BMI thickness where you're asking him to dig out not dig out, but a block a linebacker coming on the perimeter in the screen game or the run. I mean, it's a lot of those outside runs this season, Scott. You see little Jordan Humphrey being the key block in that. And I don't know if Vele, I think in the pass game can do the slot stuff. I don't think he can do the blocking stuff that's being asked of Jordan Humphrey. So you have Alan Lazard is pushing 230. Jordan Humphrey is like 225. Broncos were very interested in Brock Bowers, talking about him, who's 240, which is small for a tight end, but not for your big slot tight end wide receiver hybrid type. So I think the Broncos are looking for that body type here. So I don't know if you'd necessarily I think it was more Cortland Sutton insurance because Sutton's been on the block a lot, but with your ex background. But we'll see. This is going to be an interesting team to follow and see how Sean Payton evaluates and values pass catchers and body types coming in. But I do think that big slot is something he wants.
Good morning, Michael Roundkeo over on Facebook. Thank you for the stars. I hope your morning is going well. Coach Chris, did you email, because I haven't got confirmation, did you email milehighhuddle@gmail.com with your address and shirt size? Because you won the raffle to get your jersey from Mile High Huddle because of all your support. So make sure you do that, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Coach Chris comes in with this type of support that helped him win a jersey of his choice. Oh, that's the other part. Pick a jersey that you want. What a weekend. Great weather, great game, great people in the family loved it. Oh, yeah, you were at the game. It was a perfect weekend, wasn't it? It was so bright. The orange like hurt my eyes. When it was so stunning. I'm like, God, it's gorgeous in Denver. Onward and upward, bring on Minshew and the Faders. I want to drop a 40 burger on them. Our defense is scary, and our offense is getting better daily. And good. I'm glad to see that he has gotten back to you already. Okay, good. So that's taken care of. And thank you for all the support that you show us.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate that. Hopefully, you can get out there and I don't know, pick a Knicks. I guess that's really popular. And maybe I would always go with the classics, but you never know. So we have trying to see if we have anything here for FTN. Nope, we don't. So I did want to talk, Scott, about the playoff odds as well. And I thank you, Coach Chris. Hopefully the Denver offense, style points don't matter in the NFL. So just get me the win and let's get in the playoffs. If they win 20-17, I don't care. Just get the W. We can evaluate the small matchups in the game from that, but I don't really care about the style points.
We don't have to just get a win in Vegas for a change, right?
Yeah. Yep. And also divisional games are always weird, right?
And just step on their throats. They want to quit. Let them. They don't want to play. Just push them right off the field.
Absolutely.
They don't want to put forth the extra effort, risk injuries. Let them get an early score and be done with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are still sitting here. Want to talk a little bit about the teams that are in the way of the Broncos, not in the way, but potentially jumping the Broncos in the playoffs. You have the Colts, Dolphins now, Scott, jumping up there, and the Bengals. The Bengals lost versus the Chargers. I don't want to say it killed their season. There's something crazy, and Chris did email, and Chad emailed. Chad has gotten back, so that's great. But Bengals dropped to out of those three teams, the least probable to jump Denver now, according to. So I have three different sites here. I have NFL.com, The Athletic, and ESPN. The Bengals have the 18% chance to make the playoffs, the Colts at 25, the Dolphins at 27, Scott, and the Broncos at 49. That's The Athletic. They are kind of fading the Broncos a bit. You also have the NFL.com. They have the Broncos at 66% chance to make it, Colts at 28, Dolphins at 10, and then Bengals at 11. ESPN has the Broncos at 51%, Indy at 33, Miami at 15, and Cincinnati at 13. So those are your teams. For me, Scott, looking over the schedule, I think the one that scares me the most right now is probably, they don't really scare me, but the most is the Colts. Anthony Richardson is a wild card. He played a lot better in that last game. Granted, the Jets have had the worst EPA per play defense since firing Robert Saleh. So I don't think, maybe that's a bit of a mirage in a one-game sample. But Indy's schedule, Scott, is, after this week especially, is absolute baby, soft. So they play Detroit this week. I expect Detroit to beat them pretty good. You never know. Again, it's the NFL.
It's in Indianapolis. That's one thing they have going for them.
Yeah, Although, I mean, I would expect maybe 30% Lions fans there because the Lions are in it right now, and that's not too far from Detroit. And that's a beautiful stadium if you get a chance to get out there to Lucas Oil. I'm not a huge fan of the owner out there, but they have a very good stadium. Obviously, there's a reason that they keep hosting. So this is the remaining 6 games for the Colts. You got the Lions this week at the Patriots. I mean, playing the Lions, maybe the Colts go to New England, bad weather game. Drake May has been playing pretty good football, and they get maybe beat up a little bit, tenderized versus the Lions. We'll see what happens there. They get a bye week, and then they play at Denver. That might be a loser go home game, but it's not as much for Denver as it is for the Colts. But I mean, if Denver loses that one, your sphincters get a little tight because then they play the last 3 games, Scott. The Titans at home, on the road against the Giants, the Jaguars at home. You need to beat the freaking Colts in Denver. You're going to be favored in that game. Both teams coming off a bye, but you play 4 of the worst 10 teams in football there on that schedule remaining. So you're going to have to take care of business.
One of those things we talked about, and it's just kind of evolved my way of thinking on this after working with you the last couple of years, is, you like to say that the defense is volatile year to year. There's a few exceptions in there, obviously, but it's harder to keep a top 10 defense from year to year to year to year. Somehow the same teams keep the bottom 10 defenses, but that's another story. I don't think that the Indianapolis Colts offense and Anthony Richardson can survive the Broncos defense. I really don't. I think they're too erratic, that you're disciplined enough on the backside that to not let Josh Downs get behind you, to keep an eye on Pittman. And then the run defense should be able to handle Jonathan Taylor. And then I think Anthony Richardson is too erratic. Road game, this could be one of those games where Anthony Richardson has a 10 for 35 and 3 interceptions with 5 sacks. It really, really could. I feel pretty good about that. I said that last week. It was the Broncos, they were still under 50%. I'm like, I would absolutely pick the Broncos for the playoffs now. And then the Bengals go and lose. Yeah, the schedule is there, but you look at the Bengals, they've got the Steelers 2 more times. They've got the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos absolutely control their own destiny, and their schedule is pretty soft too when it comes down to it. You talk about the next 3 games, it's as easy as anybody else's next 3 games.
The issue is that the last 3 are pretty darn tough for Denver. We'll see what happens with KC, but I think on the road against the Bengals, until the Bengals are dead, Scott, I'm not going to completely rule them out.
With the 4-6 Bengals, I mean, I know what you're saying, because we all still have that. Well, keep an eye out for the Bengals, and part of it has been the schedule. They've lost, their last couple games. The schedule is going to kill the Bengals. Their last 3, they've lost 3 of their last 4. Okay, they lost to the Eagles. What are they, 8-2? They lost at Baltimore and at the Chargers. Yeah. I just think their schedule's going to keep them out of it.
And also the reason, again, I'm not sticking the fork.
They got the Steelers twice still.
They do have the Steelers twice. So you mentioned the teams who they've lost to, Scott. Other than the Patriots, they're all like really good playoff teams, right? The Ravens twice, the Chargers on the road. They lost to
which was week 1. Which again, Chiefs. We threw out week 1 for the Broncos. We'll throw out week 1 for the Bengals too.
They're the anti-Chiefs though, Scott. And what do I mean by that? So the Chiefs are 7-0, 8-0 in 1-score games, 9-0. I mean, I'm glad the Bills won by 9 because it's not a 1-score game there. But the Bengals this season are 1-6 in 1-score games. And that seems like, obviously it should be 50-50. So that is something that might change going forward. This is a very unfortunate
case. Cincinnati Bengals, best case, 5-1. They finish 9-8. Denver beats them. Denver wins 10.
I'm not ready to say Denver wins 10 quite yet. I think that DVOA
they need to beat the Bengals to win 10.
FTN has the Broncos odds to win right now based on how they've played so far at 9.8. So their mean wins 9.8. That means they should win 10. But I'm saying that if you're talking about the Bengals going on that run, Scott, you have to win that head-to-head. And that week 17 game is going to matter. It's too close for comfort. So I think that's, again, a lot has to come down to it. The Bengals are the best team. But also the Dolphins are a completely different team now that Tua is back as well. So we talked about the Colts already. The Bengals have a much tougher schedule down the stretch. But the Dolphins also have a very easy schedule down the stretch. They play the Jets twice, which, I mean, God, is there a more inept organization than the Jets? I don't know. They play the
Carolina.
Cleveland. Yeah. They
Carolina,
play
Jackson. I think Carolina is probably worse than Jacksonville, but Carolina.
the in-season
Now that
stuff.
Snyder's out of Washington,
Yeah.
it's Panthers and Jets.
The in-season stuff might be the Jets this year
And
with
Raiders.
Aaron. Yeah, Raiders. I don't know. You have like the crazy meeting going on with Joe Douglas fired mid-season, Robert Salah. I mean, Aaron Rodgers stuff. Did you read the article where Woody Johnson after the Broncos game went and he was saying they have to start Tyrod Taylor over Aaron Rodgers after week 4? I mean, the coaches and the general manager had to talk him off of that. It is chaos out there in New York, no doubt, this season. But I digress. The Miami Dolphins have a very easy remaining schedule. They play the Browns, the Patriots, and the Jets twice. They do play the Packers. They do play the Texans. They do play the 49ers. Those are solid teams. But yeah, very easy schedule for the Dolphins as well. The Bengals still have the Steelers twice, the Broncos, also the Titans, Browns. Everybody's playing the Browns, goodness, and the Cowboys. So Bengals are the best team out of those 3 besides the Broncos. Going 1-6 in one-score games and where they're at now, it might simply be too big of a hole, which is that's relief.
I think the Bengals are good. It's like, okay, it's understandable that they lost, but the schedule's gonna keep them out. They go 5-1 to finish, and they're still only 9-8. Coach Chris says the Broncos don't have a great track record at Lucas. Good thing it's not at Lucas. Lucas Oil Field is home of the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts come to Empower Field at Mile High. So Denver hosts that game. Anthony Richardson can't handle the Broncos defense. He's basically still a raw rookie. And I don't think he can handle a defense like that. I feel really good about that one. The Bengals concern me, and they should. Again, they could absolutely go 9-8, so you can't afford to. And one of those, if they go 5-1 down the stretch, one of those wins would be over the Broncos. They are the Bengals concern me. They are a team in a free fall. The Chiefs could possibly be playing warm-ups and have to bring it with the Chargers. We control our own destiny. And that's, I feel like, again, I think week 18 is against the Chiefs. I think now that they've lost, they're not playing for an undefeated season. They've got a couple game lead. If they take care of their business, they'll have the number 1 seed wrapped up. If they have the number 1 seed wrapped up, they're playing backups. And that's a win. That's a win for Denver.
Yeah. So honestly, Scott, the big thing now is we talked about the Broncos. They have good playoff odds. NFL.com, their playoff simulator, which likes the Broncos more than anyone else. DVOA Football Outsiders has the Broncos making the wild card 66% of the time, probability wise. I think that lines up with the NFL.com one at 66. So maybe they're using the same one pulling there. I'm not sure, or very similar formula to get to it. But Denver jumps up to 74% with a win versus the Raiders. The real question then, if Denver can keep, win these next 2 and take care of business as they should, can they potentially jump from the 7th seed to the 6th seed? DVOA FTN has the Broncos probabilities for seeds here as well. They're 66.2% chance to make the wild card, but they have a 8.6% chance to make the 5 seed. 19.4 for the 6th seed and 38.2 for the 7th seed. So obviously the Broncos it's going to be harder for them to jump the Ravens and the Chargers. I think for Broncos country here going forward, you've already lost the head to the Ravens. I think it's going to be pretty hard to jump the Ravens because they're essentially a game and a half above you. I know the Chargers are 2 games above you still, 2.5, whatever you want to call it, because they own the head-to-head, but you get another chance at the Chargers. Chargers don't really have a good home field advantage. Let's just call it as it is. And Chargers still have a relatively difficult schedule going forward as well. Their remaining opponents are 500 right now. They still have to play the Chiefs, which not week 18. So that's going to be a game that matters. They have to play Baltimore. That's Monday night this week, Scott. That should be a great one. Like half the teams in the league are on bye. Thank God we got that one Monday night. They got the Falcons left, which is categorized on Tankathon as a good team. We'll see. And they have the Broncos as well. They also have the Raiders, the Patriots, who are feisty, and the Buccaneers, who are also feisty. Not totally deadbeat teams out there. So I think Denver still's got a chance to jump to the 6th seed as well. 7th seed is highly most probable right now because Chargers have been very good this season, winning close games when they used to charger everything. Now they're not as much. But they have a chance as well. So it's not just, keeping the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Colts at bay. You have a chance against two of those three teams as well to really stamp it out and essentially exterminate them for the season. Not to be too morbid, but you're going to have a chance to jump the Chargers for the 6th seed. Is that going to matter, Scott? I mean, I don't know. Right now you have the Bills as the 2 seed, the Steelers, I think, as the 3 seed. I might be mistaken there. It might be the Steelers as the the Steelers are the 3 seed, Bills is the 2. God, I'll tell you, the Steelers are a tough team, and I feel like we keep underrating them, but I would so much rather head to the Steelers to take on Russell Wilson and a small margin game versus Josh Allen or Kansas City on the road in the wild card game. So before I was assuming to be Baltimore win the AFC North. Steelers are right there. So we'll see what happens down the stretch, but give me that 6th seed instead of the 7th seed. I think it actually might matter if it is the Steelers.
Moving on, and then we're about to get out of here. Hugh Jelly Fant says, taking our bias away, objectively, which quarterback trade has been worse after 2 years, the Wilson trade or the Rodgers trade?
I think probably the Wilson trade, because of the amount of capital that you gave up, was much more substantial. The Jets did not give up 2 top 10 picks. Also, I don't think the contract is as detrimental to move on from for the Jets, but the Broncos are probably going to come out of it better because they've done a pretty good job drafting, developing, and culture-wise with Sean Payton. So I think that the Jets situation with Rodgers will be easier to get out of from the specifics of what happened. But Denver's in a better situation just because what they have around them now.
Right. So guys, after 2 years, and remember, you're in year 2 of Aaron Rodgers. You're actually in year 3 of Russell Wilson right now, but you gave up so much more for Russell Wilson. The Jets basically gave up 2 second-round picks, and the Broncos gave up 2 firsts, a second, couple of players, couple of decent players. So, and then it was $75 million versus what, about $150 million guaranteed. So you gave up about 4 times as much, and you then lost about twice as much on the contract. So as you're looking at this, and you're saying objectively, where would you have been better off if you had only lost what you lost on Aaron Rodgers? Let's say that the Jets made that deal for Russell Wilson and gave up all that stuff, and you gave up what you gave up for Aaron Rodgers, for what they gave up for Aaron Rodgers. Would you be better off now than you would be after the Russell Wilson? Yeah, you would. You would have had your first round picks. You'd have a lot more money. So the Russell Wilson trade was much, much more expensive for basically both teams getting 0 return. Who's in a better position now? Well, that's easy. The Denver Broncos are in a much better position. 1, they're in year 3 of this mess, and 2, they're not the New York Jets, who we just called either the worst or the second worst organization in the NFL.
I got a good chuckle from MESS, mess for the Jets. Also, I saw we got. We'll see what happens with the Broncos at the Chargers, Nyla. But I'm not ready to say anything as far as the Broncos losing emphatically to the Chargers. But we'll see what happens with these next few games for the Broncos. Scott, this is before we get on out of here. What is your prediction for the Broncos at Steelers game?
Raiders.
Or Broncos at Raiders. Yeah, sorry, I'm reading Steelers in the
chat. The Broncos take care of business there. They get their win in Vegas. There's no Vegas voodoo going on. This team's ready to quit. The Broncos are better, period. I think I'm 9-2. 9-2 on the season so far in picking Broncos games. This one looks easy. This one looks pretty easy. I got the Broncos. I haven't really thought about scores, but I feel like it should be about a 17-point game. I mean, even 31-14, somewhere in that neighborhood. Maybe a couple field goals, 27-10, somewhere in that neck of the woods. So, but I like the Broncos. I don't know what the line is, but it's probably Broncos 6.5.
It's 5.5 Denver.
Yeah, I think they would cover that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Broncos winning this one. I was thinking 27-13, Scott. I didn't remember. You said 27-10? I had 27.
I said 27. Yeah, I like it. I like it by double digits.
Yeah, I think that you're going to see the Broncos do what they did versus the the Falcons, where they're going to get some field goals early, and the Raiders will probably sprinkle in a touchdown somewhere. Maybe, going for it at the end, 4th and 4, they get a couple ones where you wouldn't go for it in a normal game situations, but you are struggling there. But I think that, and this is a good conversation as well. I know we got to get on out of here. Possible trap game. Shame on them if this is a trap game, because it's the Raiders. You have never won in Vegas in the history since they've been there. Not a large sample size, but I mean, it matters. And I think this Denver team is so bought in right now, dialed in, that I just can't imagine. I don't think they're going to too full of themselves. They know what they're playing for. You have this Raiders game, and could the Browns be a trap game? You kill the Raiders. I think if it was just, a Sunday 1 o'clock, whatever, 2 o'clock kickoff, whatever it is for Mountain Time, maybe it's Monday Night Football. I don't think the Broncos in their actual chance for prime time at home before going on a bye week with everybody watching, because not a lot of people are watching Denver right now. Let's just call it as it is. And when you have that second time slot, Scott, who's getting shown? The Chiefs. Most of the time. It used to be Denver for those Peyton Manning years. But nationally, not a lot of people have watched Denver. You're going to have a chance Monday night versus the Browns to make a statement. So,
and I think we overuse the word, what a trap game actually is. It's almost like anytime a team is favored and lose, they're like, oh, that was a trap game. No, it's the NFL. A trap game is when you lose because you're not paying attention to your opponent. You're not focused on them. You're focused beyond. That's what a trap game is. And you're not losing because you're not up for that game, because you're looking beyond. You're not looking beyond the Raiders. You rarely ever look beyond a rivalry game. You want to stomp the Raiders. Divisional games, especially against the Raiders, they're never trap games. You're always up for those games. Now, will you play your best? Maybe, maybe not. Could you lose it? Yes, you could. Does that make it a trap game? No, not at all. This team will be up. They will be focused. They will be motivated. They might lose, but that doesn't make it a trap game. A trap game, like you said, would be more along the lines of, oh, we need to beat Indianapolis because they are a direct rival for the playoffs, and we got the 2-9 Browns coming up. We need to focus on Indianapolis. That is a trap game. But like you said, what can help motivate that is you're the only game playing. That changes that whole dynamics, like you just said.
Also, you have a bye week after that Monday night game. So it's are they going to be looking ahead? Is the bye week?
Y'all were underdogs against the Chargers. This is the one I don't understand. It's like, oh, we don't want to take the Chargers lightly. I'm like, yo, you're not favored. The Chargers were favored in that game. They were like 3-point favorites. And there was this narrative on Mile High Huddle that we need to take care of. This was the narrative. We were supposed to win against Chargers. No, you weren't. You were underdogs in that game. So, and that doesn't make it a trap game anyway. That's my whole point.
Yeah.
Cleveland could possibly be a trap game. Losing a game is part of the NFL. Losing a game you're favored is part of the NFL.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, part of my day is ending the show, so we got to get on out of here. Appreciate everyone coming in here and supporting us today. Mike Gibbons with the big one out of the gate. Thank you so much, Mike. I mean, that really means so much. We got Jason Bonney. Thank you so much. Michael Ronquillo a few times. Cameron Wadman. Thank you so much, Cam. A few super chats here. Coach Chris as well. Congrats on your jersey. Let us know which one you win there. I'm not going to ask you to change your profile picture for you in the jersey from the dude. From the Big Lebowski, but let us know which one you get there. Make sure you guys are following us on X. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. We're also over at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Follow us on there. If you're listening after the fact or you listen to podcasts, Lord knows I do. I walk 3 miles a day, long commute, a lot of podcasts being listened into. Got to get ready for the NFL draft, right? So we got. Leave us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it out there. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. You guys have a great rest of your day. Scott, any final thoughts before we close it out?
Nope. Enjoy. Got good football coming up. The Broncos are playing great, playing a team you haven't beaten in a while, and it will feel good to do so. You've gotten that monkey off your back. You broke that streak. You broke the Chiefs streak. At Raiders is next.
Yeah, that's a good call, Scott. Make sure you guys are enjoying this right now because we had very low expectations coming in, and the Broncos are ahead of schedule. Bo Nix is playing well beyond the general beliefs, wildest dreams coming into this season. I mean, he's right there in the thick of things for Offensive Rookie of the Year. The defense is playing great football, and the Broncos arrow is trending up so much. I mean, The only negative is that you're in the AFC West, where you have Harbaugh and Herbert and Reed and Mahomes. I mean, you put this team in the NFC South, you're talking about a team that has like a 5-year window here, Scott. No offense. Things can change quickly in the NFL, but AFC West is probably the worst division to be in as far as long-term prospects when you talk about quarterback head coach pairings. But hey, Peyton and Nick's might be in that conversation here pretty soon. If you want to put them there, I won't fight you. So good times ahead for sure.
And you don't have to win the division to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep. It's that's true, but it's a lot easier if you win the division for sure. Yep. So yeah, Nick and Peyton, we'll see how that pairing goes, and appreciate everyone. You have a great rest of your day. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. We'll see you next week. Go Broncos. Oh, and we got Desert Creature, $10. Thanks, Desert. Appreciate you. Thanks for the last minute shout out.
Thanks for sending us away. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one, guys. Bye.